Krishna has that capacity to infinitely relate to his infinite parts and parcels. Even in the liberated state, we remain infinitesimal, we're tiny. So our capacity to relate never equals Krishna's. Okay, so here's some more from the letter, and Gaura Prabhu. Here's the mic.
People should not expect that even in the Krishna consciousness society there will be utopia. Because devotees are persons, therefore there will always be some lacking.
You see how Prabhupada is saying there's fault, there's lacking. It sounds like lack, but Prabhupada explains more.
But the difference is that their lackings have become transcendental. Because despite everything, they may do their topmost intention. But despite everything they may do, their topmost intention is to serve Krishna.
Yeah, and that's what we have to keep in mind. Even if we don't get along. Even if if you see me and I see you as not getting it or something, or we at least have to, give each other, understand that our motives are to serve. Even if we're mistaken, even if we're imperfect, or whatever. So here's the way Prabhupada continued the letter. It's very instructive. Oops. Okay. The devotees of Krishna are the most exalted persons on this planet. These people that you've been complaining about. My dear Acaraya Rishi, this is Prabhupada saying here. Better than kings, all of them. So we should always remember that. And like the bumblebee, always look for the nectar, or the best qualities of a person. Not like the utopians, who are like the flies who always go to the open sores, or find the faults in a person. And because they cannot find any utopia, or because they cannot find anyone without faults, they want to become void, merge, nothing. They think that is utopia, to become void of personality. So if there are sometimes, Prabhupada says, slight disagreements, they get pretty ferocious sometimes, but Prabhupada says, so if there are sometimes slight disagreements between devotees, it is not due to impersonalism, but it is because they are persons. That's the first challenge to us cooperating, is that we're individuals, and we're going to see and think and feel and do in very different ways, just because we're all individuals. Let's see. It is because they are persons, and such disagreements should not be taken very seriously. The devotee is always pessimistic about the material world, where there's no common sentiment. But he is very optimistic about the spiritual life. So in this way, you should consider that anyone engaged in Krishna's service is always the best person. What an attitude, huh? Yeah. So, if Prabhupada's thesis is that we cooperate, and his antithesis is not to expect utopia, then what is his synthesis? What is his resolution to the point and the counterpoint? Well, there's another famous letter the next year. That was 72. And in 73, a similar kind of letter, in that Kirtanananda Maharaj wrote Prabhupada that there's dissension among the ranks. People are making factions. What else is new, right? It was not, in Prabhupada's time, just because Prabhupada had the last word, he would resolve things. Don't think it was all happy. It was a struggle. We were all just rough. It was in many ways it was rougher then. Rough and tough is kind. Survival of the fittest. No devotee care, no proctor program in those days, no nothing. No big brother or big sister. Okay, so you've heard this, and this is where it appeared in this letter to Kirtananda. So let's hear, first of all, what Kirtananda had written, or what Prabhupada replied. Excuse me. Oops, I'm ahead of myself here. Okay. Prabhupada writes in reply to the report that there's dissension in the ranks. Quote, material nature means dissension and disagreement, especially in this Kali Yuga. But for this Krishna consciousness movement, its success will depend on agreement. Even though there are varieties of engagements. Now here's what Prabhupada means. It sounds a little enigmatic, right? In the material world there are varieties, but there is no agreement. In the spiritual world there are varieties, but there is agreement. That is the difference. Even with, Krishna, Kura and the gopis there was no disagreement about who was the greatest and who was to be served and pleased. That's what it means. There's agreement in that sense about who the greatest is. Okay, so let's scroll. Anybody want to read? Where's the... Oh, you are. Okay. Oh. Okay.
The materialist, without being able to adjust the varieties of the disagreement, makes everything zero. They cannot come into agreement with varieties. But if we keep Krishna in the center, then there will be agreement in variety. This is called unity in diversity.
And now, even more, this is a famous couple of sentences now. Here it is.
I am therefore suggesting that all our men meet in Mayapur every year during the birth anniversary of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. With all TPC and senior men present, we should discuss how to make unity in diversity.
Okay, so that happened to be the theme of the Mayapur meetings a couple of years ago. But Prabhupada said you should do this every year, because Prabhupada knew this is the challenge. To find unity amidst the wild international diversity we have. And Lord Chaitanya forced the issue this past Mayapur festival. There was so much conflict. So it was very sobering. I mean, all sides of the people involved have been, it was so ugly and it was so shocking that now everybody really realizes, oh my God, we have so much difference, deep-seated, long-standing differences. We're going to really have to address this. We have to build the temple in the heart to match the temple going into the sky. Lord Chaitanya very dramatically made it very clear that you're going to have to do this, folks. You have to do the internal work. So, unity and diversity. Oh, this is how Prabhupada ended the letter. But if we fight on account of diversity, then it is simply the material platform. Please try to maintain the philosophy of unity and diversity. That will make our movement successful. So what we do for the rest of the lesson, we try to drill a little deeper and explore how to do that, how to find unity and diversity, because that's the key to cooperation. And it's the hardest thing to do. Because we have to really, 108 times really make Krishna descend. Not just by the lip, but by the deed, and by the heart and the mind. Okay, unity and diversity may sound good in principle, but how do we find it in practice? Especially in the age of Kali, the age of disunity and quarrel and all the rest of it. Well, here we go. So I suggest, first of all, we can find unity in our principles, but we can celebrate our diversity in how we apply the principles. So here's Prabhupada at the manor. Somehow I thought this was in Germany, but then some older devotee said, no, that's the manor, that's so-and-so, and that's so-and-so. So I always learn something when my godbrothers and godsisters are in the audience, even from little things like that to big things. Okay, so what you're going to see on the screen now are two of my favorite quotes, which are suggesting unity and diversity, without saying unity and diversity, you'll see how Prabhupada was able to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world according to a certain technique he had, according to, well, you're going to see it. And the first is a purport from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's chapter 23, text 105, where Lord Chaitanya is describing the difference between practical renunciation and dry renunciation, shushka vairagya and yukta vairagya. And in the purport, Prabhupada says this. All right, Oscar, you win the award. You win the Oscar.
The teacher, Acaraya, has to consider time, candidate, and country.
There's the phrase. Time, candidate, and country.
What is possible in one country may not be possible in another. The Acharya's duty is to accept the essence of devotional service. The essence of devotional service must be taken into consideration, and not the outward paraphernalia.
And later in the purport, Prabhupada gives an example, where he gets more specific. Quote, "It is not necessary that the rules and regulations followed in India be exactly the same as those in Europe, America, and other Western countries. We should not follow regulative principles without an effect." If we do that, what are we guilty of? What's the Sanskrit? Do you know? Niyamagraha, right? I never met a rule I didn't like. Whether it works or not, I don't care. I just like rules. Because I'm a devotee of the International Society for Rules and Regulations. And I'm proud of it. We should not follow regulative principles without an effect, nor should we fail to accept the regulative principles called Niyamagraha. Niyamagraha and Niyamagraha. So, two sides of the same coin. What is required, now this is kind of mysterious, but hopefully it'll be revealed more. What is required is a special technique, according to time, country, and candidate. And we're going to find out what that special technique is. And as Prabhupada's life proved, that, quote, special technique is revealed as we wholeheartedly surrender to the orders of Guru and Krishna. And here is another quote, very similar, from Bhagavatam. I think it's 4.854. Yeah, purport. Want to read?
Yeah.
One has to consider the particular time, country, and conveniences. That is convenient. What is convenient in India may not be convenient in the Western countries. If someone does go and preach, taking all risks and allowing all considerations for time and place, it might be that there are changes in the manner of worship, but that is not all faulty according to Shastra.
Right, and now we're going to look at an example, a very dramatic example of this in Prabhupada's preaching Leela. And let's see. Yep. We go down further to principles and details. Even when we try to be sensitive to, quote, time, candidate, and country, we can still strongly disagree about what exactly are timeless, non-adjustable principles and what are relative adjustable applications or details. To continue pursuing unity and diversity, which is really the key to cooperation, we must learn to tell, we must learn to discern principles from details and higher principles from lower principles for that matter. And trust that despite our diversity, we really do all share the same goal, pure devotional service to Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya's mission. So here's the context for the example. This is in, what is the difficulty? Srila Kirti. It's March 1972. And Prabhupada has very recently secured the original Mayapur land with the help of Tamal Krishna Maharaj and of course Lord Chaitanya. So TKG brings Prabhupada the deed, I think in late 71, and then in 72 Prabhupada says we must have a groundbreaking ceremony, and I want to invite all my godbrothers to come, although it was even some of his godbrothers who tried to stop Prabhupada from getting land, unfortunately. But there was always a mixed bag of people. So Prabhupada invited all his godbrothers to come. There's pictures, you may have seen Prabhupada down in this pit, going down a ladder, and he's putting Ananta Shesh in the ground to establish the Mayapur project, the original parcels anyway. And he's living in that hut, Prabhupada's Bhajan Kutu, just inside the gate in Mayapur. He's just living there. And it was much simpler than even what you see today. Today it's a little more fancy. And so Prabhupada invites his godbrothers, and a lot of them come. There's pictures, you see Prabhupada there with his godbrothers. And it's this tension, because on the one hand, they appreciate that Swami Maharaj, as they call him, is doing what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had asked them all to do, cooperate, spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. On the other hand, they have issues with Swami Maharaj. For example, why are you letting these people call you Prabhupada? This is only for the likes of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, Srila Rupa Goswami, Nityasiddhas. Why are you letting them do this? Brahmananda, get my stationery. So Prabhupada has Brahmananda go get a piece of his stationery. And it says, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, founder Acaraya, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. No Prabhupada. So at least he's not calling himself Prabhupada, and he's trying to explain to them that what can I do? For them, I'm everything. I'm the only spiritual master they know. So he kind of deflected the criticism because they had a bigger complaint anyway, which they wanted to get to. So that kind of pacified him for the time being. And then they said, why, Swami Maharaj, are you letting men and women serve together in the same centers? This is not done in India. It's a maha no-no. And they stood on a principle that Narada Muni, we're reading Narada Muni and Yudhisthira Maharaj, well, they stood on a verse from that canto, that a man is like butter in a pot and a lady's like fire, and you put the butter pot too close to the fire and the butter's going to melt. So that's true. That's a law of nature, and you can't defy that. So Prabhupada acknowledged that, and then he said, when I came to the West, you know what I found? I found that from the time they're toddlers, boys and girls are freely mixing. And then it continues in school, where they're all educated together in the same way. And then I come to the West, and I'm establishing they're like oases in the desert. They're just outside of the centers Prabhupada was establishing. There was no supportive spiritual culture or even trace of it, like in India. And the values are totally upside down and backwards. So Prabhupada was trying to explain that the principle he's operating on is giving people a chance, compassion, giving people a chance to access the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. So what is he supposed to do? Deny half the human race, access to Lord Chaitanya's mercy? No. And he knows he's taking a risk. He knows scandalous things have already happened. Scandalous things were happening. Scandalous things would happen. But he's not going to stop giving people a chance. And so he tried to explain this to his godbrothers, but that continued to be a source of, a sore point for them. Because I guess, if you can't do what someone's doing, if you're too envious, you gotta find fault, right? And Prabhupada would confide to us, or to his servant, later on reported, that, for all their complaining, they haven't advanced Lord Chaitanya's movement 1 inch. So, now, in what is the difficulty, Sri Kirti reports, that was in March 72. 7 months later, it's October, and they're traveling, and they're in the Philippines, and in Manila. Let's see. Prabhu, why don't you read? Whoop. I have to read first. Sorry. Quote, we arrived in Manila, Philippines on October 11th. Just before lunch on the 12th, I was massaging Srila Prabhupada in his hotel room. While I was rubbing the mustard oil on his back, Srila Prabhupada said, and now this is 7 months after this incident, right, in March, quote, my godbrothers criticized me, just out of the blue. It's on Prabhupada's mind still, months later. My godbrothers criticized me, that I have allowed women to live in our temples. And of course, as we know, it's not a free-for-all, live in the temples, but then there's still etiquette, right? To live in our temples. This is not done in India. You see? We can't limit our founder Acaraya to the way things have always been done in India. If he did limit himself to that, he never would have even come, practically. That same founder Acaraya, who day and night was preaching Vedic knowledge, Vedic values, Vedic culture, Vedic wisdom, he was forever opening it up into the modern context in a very revolutionary way. Within boundaries, but still he was doing that. This is not done in India. But, listen to this, I have become successful because I made this adjustment. For Prabhupada, he was adjusting a lower principle, or a detail. He was making a different application. I made this adjustment. He then became quiet. Finally, I said, because Srila Kirti said, when you hear Prabhupada say that, I've become successful because I made this adjustment, allowing men and women to serve together in the same centers. Then Srila Kirti, he says, and my mind started spinning. I've got to ask a question now to Srila Prabhupada. And I've got to get the words right. So he's grinding and he's massaging Prabhupada, He said, very often I couldn't see how Prabhupada was reacting because I was behind him. I didn't see his face. Whereas people in front, they were seeing Prabhupada's expressions. But I was just in back, massaging. And Prabhupada, he had very soft skin, but he was underneath the skin, he was hard as a rock. And he would always say, harder, more, But people couldn't move. They couldn't move him. It was like Gibraltar. Big, strong guys, they would get worn out trying to massage Prabhupada. Okay, so finally I said, okay,
Prabhupada, how can we tell the difference between making an adjustment and changing a principle?
there it is, the $108,000 question. This is the source of practically all of our quarrels in this guy, right? Between making an adjustment and changing a principle. All right. And then Srila wrote that Prabhupada didn't answer immediately. He kind of let time pass. The suspense is building, and he's massaging. Prabhupada's going, And then
Prabhupada closed his eyes and I continued to rub his body. Finally he opened his eyes and responded, that requires little intelligence.
Now, what do you think when you hear that? A little intelligent? That's the understatement of the Yuga, isn't it? Even his godbrothers didn't get it, and then their Adhikar is light years ahead of mine. Right? That requires a little intelligence to know the difference between tampering with the principle adjusting the principles according to time and place. What's a higher principle? What's a lower principle? Okay, now there was someone in the room who witnessed this exchange. Have you read My Glorious Master by Gaura Prabhu? Yeah? Anyone? Yeah. It's a good book. So it's Gaura's Life and Times with Prabhupada. And Gaura comments, let's see. Yeah. You want to read? Bernard?
To foolishly mistake a non-adjustable principle for an adjustable detail will cause havoc in spiritual life. And to accept each detail as if it can never be adjusted is fanaticism. Fanaticism will cause havoc of a different nature.
Huh. So if we err on the side of Niyamagraha, where the way Prabhupada did it this way in Denver in June 1975. That's what's going to be done the same way for all time, all over the world. That's fanatic. It's constipating. It makes us like we can't use our initiative according to time, place, audience. But the other one, okay, so that's the second one. So the first one, like Prabhupada said 16 rounds, well, how about 3 rounds? Or how about, or 4 regulative principles, how about 3 regulative principles? No meat, fish, or eggs. I can follow that one. Hey! Or how about, instead of 16 rounds, how about 4 rounds for initiation? Yeah. New times, Prabhu. Well, you better be careful adjusting that, because Prabhupada already adjusted it down to 16. For initiated, of course, anybody is invited to chant as much as they can. 1 round, 2 rounds. But for that step of Diksha, Bhajana Kriya, Prabhupada did have a standard for his ISKCON Sangha.
Is it, may I ask, is this Prabhupada speaking or is this
This is
Gaura?
Gaura. This is Gaura. The perils of, Niyamagraha and Niyamagraha, of tampering with principles and of being fanatic, so you can't even apply them differently according to time, country, candidate. So, now, that when the godbrothers were complaining about him allowing men and women to serve together in the same centers, that was in 72. In 74, when Prabhupada was translating Chaitanya Charitamrita, he directly addressed their complaint in a purport, and Prabhupada would do this sometimes. He would weave, contemporary events into his purports if they had, widespread significance or application. So, in 1974, while translating CC, Prabhupada directly answered his godbrothers' above-mentioned criticism while commenting on Adi Lila 7.37. Prabhupada writes, quote, "An Acaraya should devise a means by which people may somehow or other come to Krishna consciousness." Somehow or other. Yena tena, Rupa Goswami. First they should become Krishna conscious, and all the prescribed rules and regulations may later gradually be introduced. So that's directly Rupa Goswami, whom Prabhupada was praying to for empowerment of how to do this mission impossible, spread Krishna consciousness in the wild, wild west. So the verse, Yena tena prakarena, somehow or other the mind should be fixed on Krishna. Mana Krishna niveshe, sarve vidi, all the rules, all the vidis and regulations of Shastra, etayore